what happens is ultimately, you have this part of your mind called your reticular activating system. And what this part of the mind does is it filters all the data that's constantly being exposed to, because there's millions and millions of bits of data that you could hone in on. If you were really, really paying attention, you would hear certain things that you don't always hear. If you're really, really paying attention, you would see certain things you don't always see.
You are now listening to the podcast where authors inspire listeners to become authors, the Going North Podcast. I'm your host, Certified Self-Leadership Trainer, best-selling author, and book enthusiast Dom Brightman. And you're going to be listening to a different author that will inspire you to join the business of immortality, known as authorship. Now let the fun begin. New episode, new review to highlight. We got another one, baby. And this one is from the Intuitive Business Coach. And they left a 5-star review titled, "Love the flow of this show." Dom does a great job getting to the heart of his guests so they share stories that are relevant and relatable. Thanks a bunch, Intuitive Business Coach, for leaving that great review, and glad you acknowledge one of the heart of the matters of this show is to get to the realness, get folks to be themselves, be original, and to show their best selves and their real selves. Because, hey, the name of the game is there's a wonderful voice, message, and wonderful stories behind those pages that you read, behind the folks who put pen to paper and put those books out there for folks to devour, learn from, and be edutained by. So let's get on with today's episode. Oh, how could I forget? If you would like to let us know what you liked about the episode, do so by heading over to Apple Podcasts, the app, or on goingnorthpodcast.com. Leave a review, tell us what you like about the show, and we'll highlight it on a future episode. And then speaking of a future episode, let's get on with today's episode. And today on the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, known as the Going North Podcast, we got another super special, awesome human for you today. And it's a special occasion indeed, because we've reached a milestone that very few podcasters reach, episode 777. That's right, indeed. And we got one heck of a guest for you today, indeed. That's right, indeed. It's a treat that's good enough to eat 777 times over, indeed, because today's wonderful guest is wonderful. Did I say wonderful? Yeah, I'm going to say it again. Wonderful guest who is an international best-selling bookcaster, because she's not only sold thousands and thousands of books, she's also a podcast host herself, with a podcast with 300 plus episodes with over 1 million downloads across the wonderful globe. And on top of that, she is also a certified master hypnotist, as well as a hypnotherapist, NLP trainer, transformation meditation teacher, life success coach, speaker across the globe, and a world-renowned authority on the law of attraction. So let's give it up for the victorious and gorgeous, the fabulous Victoria Gallagher. How you doing today, Victoria?
Ooh, I love that intro. And oh my goodness, I love that I am on lucky 777 today. That is, first of all, just a fantastic achievement and accomplishment. My goodness. I think that's like 3 times the amount of episodes I've recorded. So I know and appreciate and acknowledge the work that it takes, and the consistency and the dedication and the discipline and the creativity that goes into that. So kudos to you. And thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I am super pleased to be here, and I couldn't even be happier that I'm on lucky 777. That is pretty, I'm the manifestation lady. That's not like a nickname, but it is for today. And I'm all about manifestation and attracting good luck. I wrote a book on good luck. So to be here on your show as the lucky 777 show, that's pretty awesome.
I mean, hey, you wrote the book, a track, good luck. And I was like, wow, I'm coming close to this episode. It's like, man, there's only two people I have in mind. It's like, well, she's one of them. I've been wanting to invite you on the show for a while. But I'm like, okay, I need to have a good episode number for this one. It's like, oh, wait, this will be perfect. She wrote the book on good luck. So lucky you in more ways than one. That's right indeed. So my goodness, as with all introductions are not allowed to be, I don't know, 7,000 years long and I probably only covered, I don't know, 3 months of 7,000 years. So my goodness, so what got you into writing with all of your wonderful books? Because my goodness, I know you rarely get a chance to talk about your writing process with the books, and that probably wasn't even something in your wheelhouse at first.
It really wasn't. And this is something that doesn't really come up on a lot of episodes. It actually started out, and I've never really talked about this, but speaking of writing, as a little girl, you write poetry, or I wrote a little bit of poetry. And then the poetry kind of turned into writing songs. And so I always kind of knew I had a little bit of writing power in me. But then fast forward to, my adult years, after I kind of joined forces with the corporate world and became a stockbroker, and I was in that career for a good handful of years, a little bit more than that. And I kind of hit a time with that career where I just kind of got burnt out, and I realized that I was sort of sleepwalking through life, and I had everything going for me, had, great income. I was married, had a nice house, had all the things, but I just wasn't really feeling too happy. And so I went to this personal development seminar. It was like over 4 days, and boom, it just like the lightning sort of went off during that 4 days. And during that time, I realized, like, I just felt so connected to that work, so connected to that personal growth space. I dabbled in it a little bit, read this book here and there, but I'd never really had the lights turn on the way that I did at that time. So what ended up happening was, I decided that I felt so connected with this work. I decided that I wanted to, after, really just doing a lot of deep diving into myself and what I wanted to bring personal development into the comfort of people's homes, and just be able to have this transformation take place by, at the time, listening to a cassette. And so that took me to a point where I became certified as a hypnotherapist, because I needed some kind of credential to write the scripts for these meditative recordings. And I didn't realize that was going to ultimately take me into becoming a hypnotherapist. I just thought I was going to get the credential and then just write scripts. But I don't know. I thought, I would really, I work with clients already. They already, as a financial consultant, they already tell me their sad sob stories all the time anyway. And so I might as well, change gears and actually do that for a living. And so that's what I did. And of course, a lot of that is a writing job. You're writing transformational meditations, and then, the recordings. So it never really even occurred to me until years later, after I'd already had this online website for, many years. I'd been talking to people online through my social media, through YouTube, through Facebook, about this whole law of attraction. And, people just started telling me, you should write a book, you should write a book, you should write a book. And the next thing that happened was I was invited to be a speaker and do a training for hypnotherapists on certifying them in the law of attraction. And I was like, well, I don't even have anything written about it. Like, I don't even have like a curriculum that I could teach people. I just talk about kind of my experiences with it and the things that I'm learning about it, and just what I know and what I've been learning about for the last 20 years or however long it had been. So I just all of a sudden I was like kind of took over by the spirit, and I just started writing, and I just started putting together all my thoughts and, creating like an outline for a book. And before you knew it, it was like, oh, well, I can write about this section of the book today. And when I got serious about like actually finishing the book, I just decided, I'm going to manifest being number one best selling author. And I'm going to manifest getting, some really famous people in this space to write the forward for me. So I got Michael Lozier, he wrote a book. Yeah, I got him to write the forward for the book. And I got Bob Doyle and Joe Vitale. And I manifested all these people to come forward to write the endorsements inside the book. And of course, just all of the buzz and everything that I created about it, it became within the first few hours online, it became number one bestseller, and it floats in and out of 4 years later. It still floats in and out of number one bestseller. And, once you write a book, it's almost like you can't just have one. You like get the bug, you get bitten by the bug. And it's like, well, if I could write that book, which, before you write it, it just feels like such a huge undertaking. It's always like, oh my goodness, writing a whole book and having it all come together and be cohesive and make perfect sense. And what are people going to think about this? I mean, I was great at writing hypnosis scripts and meditations and courses and things like that. But I never, book, it just seemed like a different category altogether for me. And it was a little intimidating. And it was like, are people going to really receive this? Well, of course they did. And, has the great 5-star reviews. I mean, you get your, just like everything else. I mean, you get your 1 star every once in a while, and you try not to take it too personal, and you accept the feedback and move forward. But from there, I've written now like 4 more books, including the Attract Good Luck one that was probably one of the reasons why you were attracted to finding me for your 777 show.
Heck yeah, and many other reasons too, because you put out a lot of great content, and congrats on the success of your first book. As if I'm not mistaken, you're like in a rare club. What was it? Over 1,100 reviews, like 1,100 reviews, or close to it at this point for that one
Yeah,
book.
it's like 10 right now. It's 10:48. I do check it about every day. So it's at about 10:48, and definitely, looking to take it to the even, the next level. And, it was interesting too with the Track Good Luck book. That one, I haven't really marketed it at the same level, but, back before it was a book, I had a website called Attract Good Luck. So I was really selling on that website. It was a course. It was like an audio video course that you could go through step by step to help you to, and so I was kind of selling like more like a little ebook slash audiobook. And what ended up happening with that was it was amazing. The good luck just came as a result of writing and having that website. I was contacted, and I want to say 2 to 3 weeks before I was contacted, I said, and I was on like this a walk and talk, I call it, with my husband. And so it's just every time I go out in nature, and when I go out in nature, I just start really manifesting things. And I say, I really need to start getting some PR. And we were just like having this conversation. I really need to start getting some PR. And I was talking about it. And then I just didn't think about it anymore after that, because we talk about all kinds of things. And a couple weeks later, I get I don't remember if it was a phone call or an email how the first communication came, but it was from somebody at ABC 2020 reaching out wanting to interview me on the show. And it was for an episode that they were doing called Got Luck. And so they wanted to, interview a bunch of people, including Joe Vitale. He was in that episode. So after writing that book, the first version of it, I made it to 2020 as a result of that. So it has actually brought about some lucky experiences.
Heck yeah, indeed. Because my goodness, like, because that book is actually what, 11 years old, right?
It is. Yeah. It's definitely we call it long in the getting a little long in the tooth. Yeah.
Hey, but it's definitely a good read indeed, because I feel like that's one book, if anyone's starting personal development, like that's one book should really add to their list of reads because, to be honest, I feel like the theme of the book overall is really just taking the right intentional action towards the work of really getting yourself lucky by just doing the work to put yourself out there. At least that's what I've gotten from it just as a minor of if I was to summarize in a sentence or two. But it's way more than that.
It definitely is. I mean, there's a lot of NLP techniques in the book that really help you to align your mindset with good luck, because ultimately I do believe that we create our own luck, and that it's not just something that haphazardly happens to us, which is what a lot of people, and people are very careless with their word sometimes, I mean, and your word is your power to create and to manifest. And so a lot of times, people find themselves saying and reinforcing a situation that happens where they think, oh, I just have the worst luck in the world, or this always seems to happen to me. And whenever bad things happen, they reinforce it, and then they tell themselves the lie that they believe that makes the thing true, that they have bad luck. And so I really feel like what happens in the mind when you believe that, then what happens is ultimately, you have this part of your mind called your reticular activating system. And what this part of the mind does is it filters all the data that's constantly being exposed to, because there's millions and millions of bits of data that you could hone in on. If you were really, really paying attention, you would hear certain things that you don't always hear. If you're really, really paying attention, you would see certain things you don't always see. And it depends on like what you're programmed to look for. And so if you're programmed to look for, oh, this, I have the worst luck, and every time something good to me, happens to me, something bad always follows through. If you're programmed that way, then you're going to look for evidence to make that true. And the same thing happens in reverse. If you look for opportunities and you tell yourself, and you start telling yourself that I'm stepping into a new reality where I identify as a lucky person. People are always identifying as all these different things. Well, like, you know what? I identify as a lucky person. From now on, I identify as a lucky person. And if you start to say that, then you're going to start to attract situations to you, people and opportunities that you might not have ever noticed before. And then, of course, the key to that is trusting in that, having faith and believing in yourself that if you take the actions on the opportunities that are being presented to you, that you're going to be making the right decisions, and you're going to be able to, take that first step and all the steps that are going to be required to bring your dreams into reality.
That's what I'm talking about indeed. Definitely got to bring those wonderful dreams into reality indeed. So, my goodness. So, what was it like really putting the book all together? I mean, you had the course and the audio course built in first, but it's like, hey, I guess really transferring it into book and probably going on your past experience. Like, I was like putting it all together.
Yeah. It, really is getting that, with any of the books, it's like they're all kind of along the same lines as far as just the process goes. So I always kind of start with the end in mind. I see where I want it to go, and then I fill in the missing steps along the way that it's going to take to get there. Like for example, when I put the Attract Good Luck together, I really I asked myself a lot of questions. Like I asked myself, well, who am I? Who am I to write a book about luck? And what is it about me that people might resonate with when it comes to luck? And I did a little bit of an assessment of my life and really looked back to see what have been the instances in my life that I would consider lucky. And I was able to come up with quite a few. So I wrote down all the different times in my life that, became lucky. And I really kind of studied, what was the general theme? Like, what was my mindset? Like, what did I feel? What did I do? What were the steps that were involved in taking me from, this moment before the luck happened and to the moment and the after party after the luck happened. And, I really, really just kind of just got all of that organized and put everything together into a step by step formula. Another process that I do is whenever I write a book, I always think about the most skeptical person in my audience. And I think about if this person and I were sitting down and I had to prove to them that this is real, and not that I'm really going out there trying to prove these things. I really am wanting to attract an audience of people that they're already bought in to these ideas, and they're just looking for ways and techniques to help make it a little easier. But I also don't take it for granted that there are going to also be people that are, going to find my book and they're gonna be like, I'm not sure if this works or not. And I really want to help that person. Like I really want to explain something to them in such a way that it's so simple and that that leaves no doubt in their mind that if I take these steps, that absolutely I'm going to have good luck, and I really am looking to help them to really understand it at like a fifth grade level. Like anyone could understand how to do this. All you have to do is take the steps. So it always just kind of has to pass this skeptical person test. Does it pass the test of somebody who's, totally and that's how I like to articulate my books.
Ah, beautiful indeed. Because there's a lot of stuff underlined in the book, and one of them was like, "Oh yeah, I guess I got to give my beliefs a checkup." Because sometimes it's like as you grow in your journey, especially what you mentioned earlier, like, hey, just thinking about the skeptics out there, it's like, yeah, you got to have something ready for them to really fortify your own beliefs, not just trying to be like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go get them." It's like, no, you just have to make sure you're fortified and really have a strong foundation for what you believe in. So that way, it's like, hey, it either grows with time or it may have to change with time.
100%.
Ah, yes, ma'am, indeed. Yes, ma'am, indeed. So my goodness, like with especially with the underlies, my goodness. So with oh man, so one of my favorite questions, I guess, I highlighted from the book, I guess, is how do I become the perfect match for opportunity? So for those out there who may be thinking, man, like I feel like opportunities may flee me sometimes. They may not be aware to those opportunities. Any tips for those folks who may need to be more aware of possibilities and opportunities out there so that way they can actually become the perfect match for those opportunities?
Absolutely. Well, the first thing that I strongly recommend is to get clear on what it actually is that you ultimately want, because the opportunities will present themselves when you are 100% committed and have faith. and believe in what it is that you are, wanting to manifest. So if you're not clear on what it is, you're going to have a hard time recognizing the opportunities that are even all around you, because they aren't going to really line up with anything. They aren't going to really make sense. So where a lot of people get stuck is like how to get clear. And I think depending on where you're at in your personal growth journey, I think a really good place, if you're kind of starting from the beginning, because so many people, anybody that might be reading a book like Attract Good Luck, well, just inherent in wanting to attract good luck is the fact that you probably think at some level that you have bad luck, that you need to attract the good luck in order to come and replace that bad luck. So inherent in just getting a book like that is the presupposition that you automatically think, you already think that are not a lucky person. So from there, I would actually start to ask yourself, what is all the proof? What is the proof that you have the bad luck, right? And so starting to write down the complaints, the things that aren't going right in your life, and really get in touch with that, because one of the things we don't realize is just how much time we all spend complaining. And if you just even set a timer for 5 minutes, you could probably pretty quickly come up with 10 complaints in one particular area of your life. And that's the other thing, is you want to really do this on a particular area of your life. Because if you go all over the place, it's like, oh, politics and religion and my love life and money and traffic, and you go over all those general things, I mean, you're going to find hundreds of things. So I would advise picking a particular area of your life that if that area were improved, it would actually influence the rest of the areas in your life. And for some people, that's the area of financial abundance. And for some people, it's the area of their health. If their health were improved, they had more energy, they weren't so tired, they could get up on time, they could get a lot more things done. And for some people, maybe it would be their love life, that if the love life, if they had support, if they felt loved, if they felt worthy, if they felt confident, they had that kind of support in their life, the rest of the area, so you want to pick an area of your life that if that area were improved, the rest of your life is going to be impacted in a positive way. List the complaints that you have. And I am kind of overlapping this with some work that I do in my practical law of attraction, but list some of the complaints about that area of your life. And then you want to reframe those complaints into, what is it that I want instead? And as you answer each of those complaints with what it is that you choose to create for yourself instead, from there, it's going to start to evolve into what you're, into a theme, a central theme. What is it that you really, really desire? And from there, I would start to like really focus on getting extremely clear on all of the details of that desire. Start to visualize. I mean, visualization, it does get talked about a lot, but there's a reason for it. And it's because the imagination is the language of the subconscious mind. And so when you project and impress an image and a feeling of yourself so strongly in the end result of your desire, you are going to be pulled in the direction toward the opportunities, and they are going to begin to present themselves to you, because that subconscious mind is now opened up and is on board, and it's lining you up with that to make that picture a reality.
Woo! That's right indeed. That's right indeed. If y'all ain't getting some jewels from the jewelry store today, something wrong with you indeed, because Crown Vic herself is dropping some knowledge on you today, y'all. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Because, hey, there's some folks out there who probably have some complaints, and it's like, oh man, if it's a whole scroll, then like focus on one at a time and change that area. Don't take on the whole buffet. Avoid the buffet. Just take on one area.
One area at a time. Exactly.
That's right indeed. That's right indeed. So my goodness, so taking on that area complaint, I guess some setbacks probably can happen when you're on that journey. So I'm sure in your life there are plenty of setbacks. I'm aware of some of them, but is there a major setback that you consider that may, heck, maybe even life, business, or both that actually was a big one that set you up for success?
Oh, there's so many of them. There have been lost jobs. There have been lost loves. There have been, setbacks in my current business, that ultimately put me on a new trajectory. And I really do believe setbacks really are the opportunities in disguise. They are the door opening. When you make a request of the universe to bring something to you, you need to be prepared and you need to be ready. And what that means is you need to be willing to let go of your old life that wasn't working before. And you may think that your life or whatever it is that you have to let go of, and in the moment it will seem detrimental. It will seem like something is going in the wrong direction, the opposite direction, but that is really the universe opening the door to allow a new opportunity to come in. And a perfect example of this for me was back when, before 15 years of marriage, when my husband, my boyfriend at the time, and I were dating for a number of years. And we had even been engaged and gotten unengaged. We had even been living together and stopped living together. So we had been throughout the whole gamut. And in my mind, I was manifesting for him to propose to me. This was in January of 2007. I put it out there and I created a vision board and I visualized it every day that we were going to get engaged again. And I even had by May of 2007. And well, between January and March, I'd been doing all this really strong visualization work. And he came to me kind of out of the blue just before his birthday, which would have been March 9th at the time. And so he came to me and I had this cruise planned. I had all of these it was going to be his 30th birthday. And I had all of this. And he comes to me a week before this and tells me that I don't think we're ever going to go in that direction. I don't really see us ever getting married. So I took that. I was wise enough to realize that, the universe was giving me a gift. The universe was, in my mind at the time, I thought, "Oh, the universe is just getting him out of the way so that somebody else could show up in my life." That's the way I took that message. And, and when I say just getting him out of the way, don't get me wrong. I mean, it was painful. I was heartbroken. I had to let go of the love of my life, that I thought just the day before that we were going to get married. And so, but I just took it really like, okay, I'm ready for anything. So I let him go. And that was in March. And, like within less than 90 days, after me just tweaking my visualization to make the picture a little bit more vague and just a little bit more about finding my soulmate one day on the beach and, just having this little story in my head. And we ran into each other out of the blue. Like, I never, like, after that happened, like, I let him go. I never called him again. I never wrote him, never followed him, never stalked him. I didn't do anything. We just ran into each other out of the blue. And he tells me he's been thinking about me. He's been asking the universe for a sign. And then there I was. And a week later, after that event, he proposed to me. And that was May 24th of 2007. And we got married exactly 1 year later.
Yes, indeed. He couldn't escape. He's like, okay, can't just leave this four-leaf clover out here.
So, yeah. So sometimes, you think that your dream is falling apart. And, the thing is that, at the time where our relationship was at, I don't think it would have worked if I had just hung on to that relationship and if I didn't let him go. It would have never, ever turned into the relationship that we have now. And so, sometimes the universe realizes things that it has a better plan. It just has a better plan.
That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. It's like, oh, I got this blueprint for this home. It's going to be built. It's going to be fabulous. And it's like, nope, that blueprint sucks. Here's the real blueprint. And it's like, oh, some stuff I haven't even considered.
Yes. Absolutely. Oh, speaking of homes, so the beautiful home that I'm now living in was also a manifestation that came out of an seemingly unlucky situation. So during COVID, like July 2020, we were kind of in this place where we just kept every 6 months renewing our lease, saying to our landlords, "Oh, we're saving for a house. We're going to buy a house. We're not ready yet. We don't, we just kept thinking we're not ready. We're not ready. We're not ready." So July of 2020, our landlords came to us and texted us out of the blue and said, "We need our house back." And because they, some stuff went down with their job and they needed to come back, to live in this house, and they weren't going to renew our lease. And we were going to have until, the end of October to find a new place to live. And we were like, "Oh my God, what are we going to do?" And it just didn't seem like a really good time to be looking for anything, apartment, a house, another house to rent, a house to buy. We didn't feel like we were ready with anything, but we just got creative and we said, "Well, I turned around and like, how we've been saying that, we want to buy our house. So maybe this is that opportunity." So we literally the next day called our realtor and said, "We're ready. And we got ourselves pre-approved for a loan and we went out and we started looking, and literally within less than 3 months, we moved in to our dream home. We bought our dream home. And I tell you what, the market completely skyrocketed after we moved in, and interest rates have gone sky high. So if we had waited 6 more months, we would not have been able to afford the house that we bought. Wouldn't have even been able to qualify for the house that we bought. And so, and I walk through this beautiful house every day, just thanking my lucky stars. I'm so, so grateful. And that was an opportunity that we didn't feel like we were ready for. But sometimes, like I said, the universe knows better. And again, it's like, we had to do this all over again. The house payment would be double.
But man, oh man, so do you ever say meow with your cats when you appreciate the house?
Oh my goodness, yes. They appreciate the house. They appreciate every square inch of this house and every square inch of every piece of furniture proves it.
Yes, indeed. Because I had to ask that question just because of your latest book, Your Cat's Guide to Manifesting, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, yes, yes. My cat's secret to manifesting, and that's whoops, that's my kitty Velvet, and that's me. And he has such manifesting powers, after coming in and you know what, today I keep forgetting I thought I was going to boast about this on social media and I never did. This morning, on my Insight Timer meditation app, I completed my 1000th meditation in a row,
Woohoo!
like in a row without missing a single day. And that actually all started in this house because, I have, having this big house, I have my own meditation room. And, and there was like a kind of a part of me, and I was like, wow, I get my own room just dedicated just for that. It's like, I better use it every day, right? I better use it every day. Because somebody else might claim that space, you know what I mean? Anyway, so I do use it every day, but my cat Velvet, he comes and joins me every day. And the book is about him sharing his wisdom that he has learned essentially from, having a mom who is a teacher of this material, but also just, bringing his own like reality to light and his own perspective. And, it's almost like I have reminded him of the knowledge that cats have brought into this universe. So he shares his tips and his strategies, and his is a little bit different than mine. He comes from a little bit more of a yin point of view. I come from a little bit more of a yang point of view, but his is a little bit more like about being present and being grateful and being in the moment and being playful and, all the other, the beings that really cause you to be so magnetic because he is so magnetic.
Yeah. You didn't have a nightmare that you were in a bag of cat food and the cat had to get you out of it, did you? Wasn't that good of a manifestation? It's like, this cat's too good at manifesting. Wake me up.
He is still trying to manifest his first paycheck though for for his efforts.
I guess maybe a business card will be a honorable mention instead of a paycheck for him.
Yes, there we go. Yeah.
Uh, well, I guess on that though, my goodness, is there a question that you wish folks would ask you more often when you're on the guest side of the game on the microphone?
Oh, that's a really good question. Yeah, I would say probably like the process of manifestation is, I think, a really good question that a lot of people maybe they never really ask about. Like, what is the actual process and how does one manifest? Because I think you hear so many different definitions of law of attraction, and you hear so many different like techniques and ideas and write your 555 or write your 777 or your 369 or and all these different techniques. I mean, there's just so many techniques out there. And so I like to really kind of talk about a very practical approach to manifesting. And I don't say, when I say practical, it's doesn't necessarily mean that it's simple, or easy. It just means that it's a logical approach that would work for anybody. And what it really comes down to is it comes down to alignment. It really comes down to being in alignment between having a clear desire, taking those thoughts, those 50 to 70,000 thoughts that you have in a day, and you're not going to be able to manage them all, but beginning to notice and becoming aware of which thoughts are taking you away from that desire and which ones are taking you closer to your desire. Also, what are you visualizing? What are you imagining is going to happen for yourself? That needs to be in alignment. So many times we imagine the worst and we need to imagine the best. Getting our beliefs to be in alignment, I think, is crucial. That is the beliefs in the subconscious mind, which is the most powerful. That's where manifestation really begins. It's where you need to plant the seed. Getting your vibration, your feeling. How do you feel on a tip? Are you numb? Are you in your comfort zone? Are you stuck? Are you angry? Are you frustrated? Are you in doubt? Or are you in a state of gratitude and accepting and allowing and feeling good and feeling excited and feeling enthusiastic? And then, of course, allowing for inspired ideas from the super conscious mind to come to you that you take action on, and getting in alignment with taking the actions that are going to take you closer to your goals. And then finally, just having the celebration, celebrating what we manifest. So often people will just manifest something and then they're boom on to the next thing, and not really celebrating what it is that they've manifested. And it's not just the end result, it's not just the big thing. It's not just like the job, it's not the $1 million, it's not the relationship, but it's the little micro steps in between that lead to that. You want to be thankful for each and every one of those gifts because they're the stepping stone. It's life. Like life is always happening 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so if we're just waiting to be happy, when that one moment comes, that 1 second in time where the second before that we didn't have the manifestation that we think that we should, or and then boom, like I got the keys to the house, and at what moment do I finally get to be happy? Was it the day that I found the house? That's a sign. That's a manifestation. Was it the day that I put the down payment on? Was it the day that I moved all my stuff into the house? Which day, which moment do I finally get to celebrate? We should be celebrating all the time. It's always a celebration. And so, that's sort of my process it's the 8 manifesting conditions that ultimately create you manifesting all the time.
There you go. 8 great magical steps indeed. You'll love to see. You'll love to see it. That's right, indeed. And love that aligning your beliefs is definitely part of it, indeed. Kind of a callback to earlier in the magical chat about giving your beliefs a checkup. It's like, hey, you got to get them all aligned. You got to make sure you're all on the same path. It's like you got to make sure you're all pointing north here in a way. It's like you don't want to go south one way and thinking you're going north, or going east and you're still going south. It's like, hey, you got to make sure everything's aligned and then celebrate indeed. In fact, even funny enough, reminds me of a couple of our past guests, but I think Hillary de Caesar, where she had a big victory at Oracle and she was going to pop a certain bottle of wine and she never popped it because she kept thinking, oh, when I get to this milestone or get all these sales, and she kept crushing those goals, and then she forgot to celebrate, and then the bottle never got open till I guess after she left Oracle for all the years. So yeah, definitely gotta celebrate indeed. Definitely indeed.
I can relate. I've had that bottle of wine or champagne in my fridge before that is like waiting for the perfect moment to pop it open, and it's like, we gotta pop more bottles.
There you go. That's the quote for the episode. We got to pop more bottles. More than double.
And that's obviously metaphorical for, go celebrate some other way, just acknowledge yourself, acknowledge your greatness, acknowledge the little steps along the path to ultimately what you really want. And if you do that, I mean, you're just going to create so much more of an infusion of energy and accelerate your manifestations, because that gives you the feeling. It's like, oh my God, I didn't even really think about the fact that, like, this one step, I could check that box off. And there's a lot of steps. It's not just you go from A to B, you go from A to Z and back around again. And sometimes it's a little bit of a jagged road getting to that final path. And so, you don't want to wait until you get there to celebrate. You want to celebrate along the way.
That's right. Celebrate along the way. Where you may one day wake up with a lampshade over your head and the lampshade is cat ears, and you'll be like, what the heck is going on here? That's right, indeed. Fun visual for the folks at home. But Mike, got us a couple more questions. I'll let you make her run for it. So since you're a fellow podcast host, always got to ask a fellow host one of those obligatory questions. So what would you consider your 3 major lessons learned from starting and running your magical podcast thus far?
Oh my goodness. Well, lesson number 1 is be consistent. The first couple of years of my podcast, I released like 12 episodes and it wasn't really getting, where I needed it to be. So be consistent, whether it's weekly, whether it's twice a week, whether it's monthly, whatever it is, just have a consistent schedule. Number 2 is do something, I would say definitely do something that you are passionate about. It's going to continue that consistency, and that people pick up on your enthusiasm. They pick up on that you enjoy talking about what you talk about. And number 3, and I think this is just as important as anything else, is get help. Get a podcast assistant. I have a great podcast assistant that helps me with the things about it that I don't want to do. And all I do is I just get to show up and interview people, or just do my thing. And I just pop my podcast episode up into the Dropbox, and everything else is done for me. I don't even have to worry about promoting it or writing anything or uploading anything or anything, no technology whatsoever. I'm very tech savvy, but I've just kind of decided that's not something I want to deal with when it comes to that. So get a podcast assistant. So yeah, consistency, talk about something that you're ultra passionate about, and get help.
That's right, indeed. It takes a team. That's right, indeed. It takes a team. Get that PA, that assistance. That's right, indeed. Good old podcast assistant, indeed. Makes life a lot easier. A heck of a lot easier. A lot of
Yes, for sure.
That's right.
It definitely does.
Yes, indeed. That's right, indeed. It's like your first time, and
Even though occasionally they might screw it up, they might screw something up occasionally, but you know what? If they're doing it right, I have to remind myself this. If they're doing it right 95% of the time, then that's much better than you having to do 100% of the work.
there you go. Because it's a lot of work. It's a lot
Mm-hmm.
and funny enough, fella.
Most definitely.
Yeah, definitely indeed. So speaking of hard work, that probably builds up an appetite in folks. So if you're fabulous, book, Attract Good Luck. Learn how to control your life and get what you want. If that book were a food, what would it be and why?
Oh my goodness. That was a food. I would have to call it a, oh my goodness. Gosh, I would call that a bowl of strawberries and whipped cream because it's a very healthy book that is rich in vitamins, all the vitamins you need, with a little bit of additional sweetness that just makes life so much more pleasurable.
Ah, there you go. Strawberries and cream. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. And if you change your luck around and you manifest, some would call that a miracle, and then it'll be a miracle whip.
Miracle Whip. That's right. That's right. Miracle Whip. Although that's mayonnaise.
Yeah. Yeah, I still wanted to get that corny joke in somehow. Like I'm gonna squeeze it in there somehow. I'm like strawberries and cream, miracles, manifestation. I'm like, what?
But I get you. What's, you know what? Ready Whip. It's Ready Whip, and that you have to be ready.
Oh, there you go.
Ready Whip, the spray on kind.
There you go. So ready to whip it real good.
Accelerated manifestations. Yes.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So my goodness, definitely got to have you back on the show in the future, indeed. That's right, indeed, because we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that
Ooh,
is if you're the
I'll be on your 888 show.
okay, shoot, we'll book it now. Shoot.
That might be, yeah. That might be a little while from now, but I'll go for 888. That's a magical manifesting number right there.
All right, well, we already know what number she's got. She's gonna be back for episode 888, y'all. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. The nines better watch out because they're gonna get eaten.
You're hilarious.
Right, dude. Told you it was a trap door. Oh man. Oh yeah, now I remember the question I was going to ask. So my goodness, so if you wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but you're still in the current year, what advice would you give to yourself?
Mm. Oh my goodness. I think if I were 25 again and I'm in this year, the advice I would give to myself would be learn everything you can possibly learn about artificial intelligence and get yourself a business coach who can help take your life to the next level.
Yeah, that's right indeed. That BC you all need. That's right indeed. We ain't just talking about before Christ, Joe. We're talking about a business coach indeed. That's right indeed. Learn about Allen Iverson too while you're at it. That's right indeed. So you can cross up the other
Mhm.
basketball players. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Oh wait. Well then that's not the AI. Well, artificial intelligence. There we go. Yeah, yeah, that AI. Yeah. that's, that's right indeed.
Yeah.
That's right indeed. That way you can manifest a giant pyramid.
Use it or it'll use you.
Oh, you're right indeed. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Might wake up with the
Mhm.
lampshade with dog ears this time if you let it use you. So be aware. So learn it now.
You just might.
That's right indeed. And then you'll have to find out of an Alpo bag instead of cat food. Yeah. That's right indeed. That's right. wow, man, but solid tips indeed. So my goodness, so for those who want to learn more about all the wonderful stuff that you're doing, since we only probably covered 0.01% of all the stuff that you have to offer, what's the best way for folks to learn about the other 99% of what Victoria does?
Yeah, so I would just recommend that you go visit my website, Victoria M as in Marie, Gallagher.com, victoriamgallagher.com. And, from there, you'll learn about my apps, my books, my courses, my coaching, my everything.
There you go. You heard her. You heard the Barry White reference. You get to learn about her everything, y'all. That's right. So head over to Victoria's fabulous website. Indeed, cop some copies of her magical books, especially Attract Good Luck and the Practical Law of Attraction. Definitely, indeed, because she has them both on Audible as well, and she's reading them. So if you enjoyed being hypnotized and mesmerized and taken to a wonderful meadow full of clouds, you're definitely gonna extend your Victoria time by copying some audio books as well and download her app indeed, because she is like an arms dealer with all the wonderful stuff she has to offer. And the good news is it's only the beginning, because she's creating more things to help you manifest your best self possible. Because hey, if you're listening now, that means you're going to be getting better and not butter. So before the wonderful butter melts into a giant cake, what's the, or should I say, any parting words before we close up shop, Victoria?
Just I liked for people to realize that, the power is within your mind to achieve whatever you can imagine. If you can imagine it, then you can create it.
If you're hearing this part of the episode, that means you're one cool individual. Thanks a bunch for tuning in, and if you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to share it with at least one other person in your network. Bonus points for 3. And be sure to check out the backlog too while you're at it, because there are hundreds of wonderful episodes to choose from as well.